Hello, I'm Nima Rajan. Students and recent graduates will be able to apply for financial relief from the federal government on Friday. The Canada Emergency Student Benefit will provide students with $1,250 per month for up to 4 months, with an extra $750 for students with disabilities or dependents. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says students should preemptively create an account with the Canada Revenue Agency. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is expected to face questions in Parliament today about the government's plans to help Canadians get through the COVID-19 pandemic. The opposition party says some business aid programs still leave out many companies that don't meet eligibility rules. Following question period, MPs are expected to approve legislation authorizing the Dairy Commission of Canada to increase its borrowing capacity so that it can support the cost of storing excess butter and cheese. A new emergency order allows the Ontario government to control the management of long-term care homes hardest hit by COVID-19. The order allows the province to step in if a facility has a high number of infections or deaths, or if it's facing a staffing shortage. The province says the appointed manager could be any person, including a corporation or hospital. More than 1,200 long-term care residents have died of COVID-19 in the province, and 180 homes have outbreaks of the virus. Health Canada has authorized the first blood test to detect antibodies specific to COVID-19. Detection of the antibodies will help contribute to a better understanding of whether people who have been infected are immune to the virus. Health Canada says at least 1 million blood samples will be collected and tested over the next 2 years to track the virus in the general population and in higher risk groups such as healthcare workers and seniors. New Brunswick is allowing farmers' markets to reopen as long as they can follow health measures like physical distancing. The market operators are being tasked with developing an overall COVID-19 operation plan, and in addition, each vendor must develop an individual operational plan as well. Agriculture Minister Ross Wetmore says the markets are a key part of the province's agriculture system. Well, COVID-19 is expected to cast its shadow for some time yet, and the increasing worry of potential food shortages is prompting some Winnipeggers to plant their own produce. Now, a city councillor says he wants to make it easier for others to grow food too. Matt Allard says he has already introduced a motion that would allow residential land to be used for commercial fruit and vegetable production. He admits fast action is needed to change a zoning bylaw in time for this year's gardening season. Well, some people must really want to get into Prince Edward Island, despite COVID-19 precautions that have virtually stopped all traffic heading onto the island. The province's justice minister was asked if the cargo of trucks arriving in the province are being searched for possible stowaways. He confirmed that 2 incidents are under investigation and noted that trucks were only being searched if there is reason for suspicion. A draft agreement between Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs and the federal and provincial governments has been posted online by the Office of the Wet'suwet'en. It does not address the hereditary chiefs' opposition to the construction of the Coastal GasLink pipeline in their territory, but it places timelines on negotiations affecting jurisdiction over a number of areas, including land use planning and child and family wellness. The elected chiefs of several Wet'suwet'en First Nations say they don't support the memorandum because it was negotiated behind closed doors without their full participation. The U.S. Supreme Court is taking up an unusual voting issue that could have significant consequences for the 2020 presidential election in an era of intense political polarization. The 2 cases deal with whether presidential electors are bound to support popular vote winners in their states or can opt for someone else. So-called faithless electors have not been critical to the outcome of a presidential election, but that could change in a contest with a razor-thin margin. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is in Israel for meetings with Benjamin Netanyahu and the Prime Minister's new governing partner, Benny Gantz. The group will be discussing a wide range of topics, including Iran, the coronavirus, and Israel's possible annexation of parts of the West Bank. A task force in Wuhan, China, wants to test all 11 million residents for COVID-19 in the next 10 days. It's not clear how a testing campaign of that magnitude could happen in such a short period of time. However, one expert told China's Global Times newspaper that up to 5 million people have been previously tested. The order came after a cluster of 6 new cases was confirmed in the city where the novel coronavirus was first detected. The European Union's counter-terrorism official is warning that the coronavirus pandemic is being used by extremists as an opportunity to spread their message and possibly carry out attacks. In a confidential briefing to member nations obtained Wednesday by the Associated Press, the counter-terrorism coordinator cautioned that extremists could view attacks on medical personnel and facilities as highly effective because these would generate a massive shock in society. The briefing said it's known that terrorists and violent extremists that are aiming to change societies and governmental systems through violence seek to exploit major crises to achieve their objectives. Indian soldiers have fatally shot a young man at a checkpoint in the region of Kashmir, triggering anti-India protests and clashes. India's Central Reserve Police Force says the man was driving a car and ignored signals to stop at 2 checkpoints. They said the soldiers feared sabotage because a military convoy was passing by at the time. But the victim's father denied the police account, saying his son did not drive through any checkpoints and the soldiers first stopped him and then shot him. As news of his death spread in his village, hundreds of men and women began protesting, and government forces fired shotgun pellets and tear gas to disperse them. Well, parks filled with the sound of children as Turkey allowed kids aged 14 and under to leave their homes for the first time in 40 days. The country's youngest population were allowed to venture out for 4 hours today as Turkey eased some restrictions in place to fight the coronavirus outbreak. Youngsters aged between 15 and 20 will be able to leave homes for a few hours on Friday, while senior citizens were briefly allowed out for the first time in 7 weeks on May 10th. In the capital Ankara's main park, young children wearing masks took turns down slides while older kids took selfies. Well, that'll do it for today's news update. I'm Nima Rajan. Thank you for joining us today, and I'll see you next time.